pledge will be led by the gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Johnson.
I'm here this morning just to address education. How do we know? Because the people have told us so. We represent the ideal way to alleviate the shortages is by ensuring that children of all races and both genders receive the basic grounding in science and mathematics that will prepare them to pursue careers as scientists, engineers, and technologists. Is it not time, then, for America to grow morally? For those who fear to answer this question, I will answer it for them. The time is now.
Now, more than ever, what happens in Washington impacts us here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Your Congresswoman, Bernice Johnson, will help you understand what goes on inside the federal government and share perspectives from today's leading policymakers and opinion leaders. And now, your Congresswoman, Bernice Johnson.
Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report. You know, in recent months, Americans have become more and more concerned about the safety of the food they're eating, me included. My guest on today's show is Sarah Klein, a staff attorney at the Center for Science in the Public Interest. She joins us to discuss food safety and to provide information on keeping your family safe. Prior to joining this organization, she was an assistant attorney general with the District of Columbia, where she drafted consumer protection legislation that is now law. And she holds a J.D. degree from George Washington University, a master's degree from American University, and a bachelor's degree from Boston University. So she is well prepared. I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And this really is a concern. You know, more recently there have been peanuts and baby foods and all kinds of things that have been recalls. And I don't remember that happening so much in the past.
Yeah, it's a combination. We're seeing more outbreaks, more recalls, in part because our food system has become so enormous. We're getting food from all over the country, all over the world. Things are really spread further than they've ever been before. But also we do have better technology to track these kind of things and to collect the data that really shows us a pattern. What used to be one person getting sick in Washington State, another person getting sick in Texas, and yet another person in New Jersey, we can now connect those dots and see that what we have on our hands is an outbreak rather than just a few illnesses spread out around the country. Yeah.
Well, does the Food and Drug Administration do most of the checking or certifying? Or?
You know, it's very interesting to think about who is looking at the safety of our food because we have 12 different federal agencies that are responsible for a different piece of the food safety pie. The Food and Drug Administration regulates about 80% of our food supply. So all of our fruits and vegetables, our processed products, our, you know, everything in the center aisles of the grocery store essentially. And then you have USDA, which does the other 20%. That's mostly meat and poultry. The interesting part is when you see how that sometimes doesn't make all that much sense. You have an FDA regulating cheese pizza and USDA regulating pepperoni pizza.
Oh, tell me the rationale behind that.
You know, it's because pepperoni is a meat product and so it falls under the purview of the USDA, but FDA gets the rest. And it's really interesting, especially when you look at the differences in their inspection systems. USDA is on site all day, every day in any plant that is handling a meat product in this country. That's a result of Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. It was written about 100 years ago and really showed how awful the meat industry at that time was. So we passed all these laws to say we need to have inspectors in those plants all day, every day. Well, unfortunately, there's nobody over at FDA doing the same thing. So your cheese pizza plant might be inspected once a decade, whereas your pepperoni pizza plant is getting somebody in there every day.
That's very, very interesting. You know, many people think it's because we're importing a great deal of food products. Do you think that has any influence?
Absolutely. There are issues with imported food, no question. One of the big problems that we see is that other countries may not be following the same kinds of food safety practices that we follow here in the U.S. If we're getting products from places that are not as safe as we are, then we're going to see problems. And right now, FDA doesn't have the kind of authority that it needs to require those other countries to do this as a condition of trading with the U.S. That's the intersection of food safety and trade policy. It's quite interesting. That's not to say that imported food is the whole problem. We have certainly seen some outbreaks recently. The big one is peanuts. The Peanut Corporation of America was an American company, and they were doing some horrible things and made a lot of people sick, caused 9 deaths, and over 2,000 products were recalled. This is not an import problem. That's a problem with our system here at home. So
what was the bacteria in the peanuts?
That was salmonella, and salmonella is a bacteria that we normally see in poultry.
Yes.
We also see it in animal feces, and one of the things that's, you kind of look at peanuts and think, how is salmonella getting in there? Well, at Peanut Corporation of America, they had some holes in the roof, and you have bird feces leaking down from the roof onto your peanut conveyor belt, and there you go. Now you have a contamination problem. So it's really unfortunate. They were a particularly bad actor in the sense that they knew that their products were contaminated with salmonella. They had positive test results, and they chose to ship those products anyway. That's really unfortunate. That puts them on the same kind of playing field as our pet food problem from last year. That was Chinese-made pet food, where we saw that intentionally contaminated with, at that time it was melamine, the same material that's in plastic plates. And that was deliberately added to the product to give the appearance of more protein. Under a microscope, melamine looks like protein, and so they could sell it for a greater price and ship it right here to the U.S. And so unfortunately, there are bad actors everywhere, but we can't point the finger at either imports or domestic as the sole source of our problems.
How rapidly can you get on top of a complaint like this and pinpoint it?
It depends. We actually we have some major problems with what we call traceback in this country, and that is once a person reports an illness or several illnesses are reported and an outbreak is suspected, it's very difficult to really follow that product all the way back and figure out where it came from. It's more difficult if your product is something like peanuts, where you have somebody getting sick from crackers, somebody else getting sick from ice cream, and somebody else getting sick from a candy bar. Trying to draw the link and find that the common element is an ingredient, that's very, very difficult. It's a little bit easier when you have a product like hamburger, where you can say, this person is dreadfully ill and they ate a hamburger last week at this restaurant, so did this person, so did this person. You pinpoint that a little more quickly. What we call ingredient contamination, like peanuts, is kind of the nightmare for a traceback.
Do we have current enough laws that would offer any more protection?
Unfortunately, we don't. We're still relying on these laws that were written 100 years ago in the time of the jungle and Upton Sinclair. They've been updated somewhat over the years, but never in a really comprehensive way. We've got some legislation on the Hill right now that we're hoping that you and your colleagues see fit to push through, and that will make some significant changes at FDA.
Tell me a little bit about that so I can look it up.
Well, it's the Food Safety Modernization Act is what we're looking at, and basically it would bring FDA much closer to USDA in terms of its inspection authorities, its enforcement capabilities, and it would require more of companies who are providing food to the American people. We have for too long operated under a system where companies are sometimes making the rules for themselves, or the Food and Drug Administration is making recommendations, issuing what they call guidances to the industry, saying, we suggest that this is what you do to control this problem. What we'd like to see is more mandatory authorities and more requirements of these companies. When we think of the amount of money that these companies make every year, and frankly the amount of money that it costs the American taxpayer when there's an outbreak or a recall, it's worth a little bit of investment on their part to make food safer.
So you think some of this comes from a little bit of a laxity of enforcing the law?
Some of it comes from